An Iranian lawmaker has alleged that U.S. President Donald Trump sent a secret threatening message to Tehran before the Oman talks. According to these claims, Trump used an unnamed intermediary country, asking to strike 2 points inside Iran. In response, Iranian officials reportedly warned the United States that any such strike would be met with swift and forceful retaliation. Iran's National Security Committee member Mahmoud Nabavian made these statements, as quoted by the outlet Iran International. Nabavian reportedly threatened that any retaliation Iran would respond to U.S. strikes, resulting in thousands of American casualties. Nabavian said, quote, "If you make the slightest mistake, we will take 3,000 to 4,000 casualties from you." Unquote. Nabavian added that Iranian lawmakers asked Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi to deliver a stern message to regional partners. According to him, the message said that any company or base bearing the name of the United States would be targeted. This development came as the Iranian foreign minister issued a chilling warning against the United States on February 7. Araghchi stated that Tehran would strike U.S. military bases in the Middle East if Washington attacks Iran. He further stressed that Iran's missile program was never negotiable in talks with the United States.
What does it mean that Iran is going to turn it into a regional war?
In my view, this is very clear. If the U.S. attacks us, it is evident that we don't have the ability and access to attack U.S. territory, the country, and therefore have to attack or retaliate to U.S. bases in the region. And unfortunately, U.S. bases are spread all over the region. Yes, there is very, very deep distrust. How trust can be built? In my view, this is not easy. This distrust, of course, was created by the United States. In the previous round of negotiations, it was not us who carried out a military attack in the middle of negotiations. In fact, the first bomb that was fired at us was fired at the negotiating table. The Americans betrayed diplomacy in the previous round, and this time, if we are to return again to the negotiating table, they must create trust. We never left the negotiating table. We never adopted threatening approaches toward our neighbors. We have always been ready for diplomacy, but diplomacy that guarantees Iran's interests is conducted from an equal position and is based on respect.
In light of these American demands, what's your situation? How are you going to deal with them, the demands?
Our talks yesterday were only about Iran's nuclear program, and the Americans did not introduce any issue beyond that. Of course, yesterday's talks were held indirectly through Oman, but our prior agreement was that we would speak only about the nuclear issue, and that agreement was met yesterday during the negotiations. The matter of zero enrichment is, from our perspective, completely outside the scope of the talks. Our enrichment is a settled matter and must continue. They were unable to eliminate it even through military bombardment, because technology cannot be destroyed through bombing. We are ready to reach an agreement that builds confidence regarding enrichment in Iran. We have no problem with that. But the principle of enrichment must certainly be accepted. Our talks yesterday revolved around these very issues, and when I say it was a good start, I mean that it is possible to count on these negotiations moving forward in the direction I have outlined. The other issues you mentioned, the missile issue and defense matters, are our defense and security issues and are in no way negotiable, neither now nor at any time in the future. Regional issues belong to the region itself and have nothing to do with countries outside the region. Iran's internal issues also belong to the Iranian people, and no foreign country has the right to interfere in Iran's internal affairs. Domestic issues in Iran have been explained many times. We certainly recognize the right to peaceful demonstrations and the expression of protests. This is explicitly stated in our constitution. But peaceful demonstrations and the expression of protests are completely different from armed attacks. What we witnessed in Tehran and other Iranian cities over 10 days were demonstrations, and the protests themselves were fully accepted. The government was also engaged in talks with leaders of the demonstrators. But on the 8th, 9th and 10th of January, we were faced with a terrorist action.
25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.